Hello and welcome to Success Stories for Small Energy Customers. Today we will be learning about on-site solar energy procurement through a CPACE financing mechanism. Our speakers today are Jonathan Goldstein from Cook Technologies, Chris Fraga from Alternative Energy Development Group, and then weighing in during Q&A, Katie Show-Royer at Evergreen and Michael Leggett from Evergreen.
So Chris is going to be able to tell you about some of the particulars. He really was my friend and guide on this project for sort of getting it done. I am basically the project's economic sponsor because I own a manufacturing company called Cook Technologies. Now, what I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of the business case here. I heard a lot of what Ashby said about like saving the planet and green energy and all that stuff. You know, frankly, I'm a pretty hard-nosed capitalist, and all that stuff is nice, but those are all nice to haves, not have to haves. For me, the have to have is that it really had to make economic sense first and foremost. And we were in a bit of a pickle with Cook. And when I lay out for you why, I'm hopeful that some of this resonates with the rest of you on the call. I would be grateful, just because I can't see you all and I can't see if your heads are nodding. You know, if what I'm saying is resonating, just throw a thumbs up in the chat every once in a while, so I can tell that I'm on the right track here, because otherwise I can't really see it. So I'm going to turn you by way of background. I buy and turn around small American manufacturing companies. So our goal is to participate in, and has been for the last 10 years we've been doing this, you know, this whole sort of reshoring effort, and an effort to rebuild, revitalize the American manufacturing base to provide good jobs for American workers, American guest workers, and really make sure that we stay at the forefront of manufacturing on the globe. So in order to do that, we have selected a layer of companies that we transact around that really can be best described as companies that are fundamentally broken, right? It was a company that in 88 was doing 30 million, in 98 was doing 20 million, in 08 was doing 10 million, and by 18 was doing 3 million, right? Everybody sees that trend line. No OI, no operating income, no ability to invest in the business, very restricted budgets for CapEx. A lot of the time, you know, they haven't had any money, any real play in the budgets to make investments for years. And so by the time we get hold of these companies, they're a bloody mess. And that was really the place with Cook. Cook was actually one of my clients in my law practice. And, you know, the business had fallen on really hard times, that had been losing money for years. And the guys that owned it, my clients, came to me and said, look, you either need to buy this thing, we talked to you about it a few times, or we're going to shut it. Well, we start to get into it, and we realize that the physical plant in which the company was housed was decrepit beyond measure, to the point where the roof was literally collapsing into the building. A storm had come through about a year before we did the transaction, and there was water running into the building in multiple places. This was a 100,000 square foot building where they regularly had dozens of large 50-gallon garbage cans all over the building to catch the water that was pouring in. Machines would be operated with tarps over the top of them. It was awful. And, you know, we had an insurance settlement coming, but we were really facing the prospect of having to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in renovating the building just to be able to function before we went to work on the gross margin, before we went to work on the operations of the factory, before we went to work on rejuvenating and revitalizing and reinvesting in the workforce. So, you know, as we're starting to think about what the hell are we going to do about this roof, we met Chris. We were introduced to Chris by one of my neighbors, actually, who knew him from a couple of other projects. And long story very long, we figured out that when you do one of these CPACE loans, and Chris will tell you a little bit more about that, but when you do one of these CPACE loans, which are designed to fund green energy, you can bundle ancillary costs, or ancillary, depending on what part of the globe you're from, costs into the solar itself. So we were able to take the excess cost for the roof above and beyond that which was paid by the insurance company after our public adjuster got done beating them up, right? They originally offered us $80,000 to repair the roof. The bids came in at almost $500,000, and we got a public adjuster to get them to pay damn near all of that. We were able to bundle some of that money in. Some of the uncovered costs, the costs that weren't covered by insurance, got bundled in, and the whole cost of the solar project, all bundled into the CPACE financing, which meant that the cost of that roof now was taken out over 25 or 30 years, whatever the maximum length we could get for the CPACE project. So this was a very, very effective way to free up CapEx to use to reinvest in the building by getting this financing. Now, why was this financing attractive? Other than the fact that I could bundle the whole roof into it. Funding went out a lot of years, as I mentioned, 20 to 25 years, and critically was non-recourse, right? Small business owners out there, people on this call, 25 of you, where the hell do we go to get huge buckets of non-recourse financing? It doesn't exist for small and medium-sized businesses. You know, you want to take some Titanic Fortune 500 company, you know, they give you all the non-recourse financing you want. You crash the business, oh, well, you know, sorry, Citibank, I guess you're out a couple of $1 billion. Me or you, we want to borrow 4, 5, 6, 800 grand. You know, the banks want us to send them our children to hold in their vaults. So this was a terrific opportunity to get access to non-recourse financing, which is very rare. So we were able to bundle, we were able to get money that went out long, we were able to get money that was non-recourse. And the other thing that was nice about it, when you think about it from a building management standpoint, I had some arm's length tenants in my building as well. Well, now the repairs to my roof and the repairs to the roof structure and the CPACE project itself can all be bundled and shared via CAM, right? That becomes allocatable CAM to the tenants in the building so that I have an opportunity to recoup some of that cost. So if all that weren't good enough, the other reason it became attractive is because you get energy tax credits, right? So not only do I get this long-term non-recourse financing that I can recover via CAM, now I'm going to get some energy tax credits as well. And I think we were able to get, between the use of domestically produced steel, the fact that our project was taking place on a property that had some historic pollution that we were cleaning up, we got damn near 50% of the project cost back as a tax credit. So all those factors combined really militated in favor of doing this green energy project, even though green energy, climate change, supplier pressure, you know, angry young employee pressure, none of that stuff really resonated in my organization. Let's just say those weren't the challenges we were facing, right? The challenges we were facing was a massive funding deficit for CapEx and the prospect of trying to get a real return on doing this. The system we put on the roof of the building totally neutralized our electric bill. So for the next 20 or 25 years, we won't have an electric bill. That was great. And we were able to bundle LED lighting and some water and sewer improvements, because those are also covered by CPACE. So front to back, this project was a home run. The fact that it was managed by Chris and his crew on a turnkey basis was fantastic. I mean, I can't encourage you enough to use a company like Chris's. Hell, go ahead and use Chris's company, you know, to get a project like this done. It just has been a terrific experience, with one exception. And it's the one caveat I'm going to give you guys. The utility partner in our geography stinks. They're terrible. They have not met their commitments. They have not met our needs. This project was completed and ready to be turned on in January. It's still not turned on. It's still not turned on because the utility ran out of the interconnect hardware that they need to come plug into my panel to turn me onto the grid. So I have, you know, energy credits that I could be selling. I have a tax credit that I need to be able to capture, and I have electric bills that I want to neutralize, and I can't do it because this stupid utility that's been telling everybody to go out and do this, that's been running around from the rooftops telling everybody, go do all this clean energy, is missing critical parts that they need to connect me. And to add insult to injury, These are parts like a meter pan, which is like a thing in which the meter sits. It's like a flat metal pan. Did I mention that Cook Technologies is a metal stamping operation? And I could make such a product in my building, and they won't let me because my product's not certified to sit below a meter. I mean, it's an AIM. So once they get the thing turned on, it'll be an A or an A- project all the way around. It would have been an A+ if they were ready to turn it on when they should have gotten it turned on. But the design of the CPACE program, the partner we picked, the ability to recoup all those costs, the ongoing ability to sell, renewable tax credits, the ability to solve our CapEx problem, the non-recourse nature of it, every one of those was a home run. So Ashby, I don't know if I've talked too much or too little, but that's all I have to say about that until people have questions.
Wonderful. I know that probably a little bit of definitions of what CPACE is and how that works is certainly on the agenda. Chris, do you want to tackle some of that now, or should we
Sure.
let everybody kind of tell their story first?
Yeah, sure. I'll just make a couple minute comment on that. And thanks, Jonathan, for your comments. This was an exciting project. CPACE has been in place in the United States for many years now, and it is defined as commercial property assessed clean energy financing. As Jonathan mentioned, the financing is non-recourse, and actually the financing is really backstopped by one's tax bill, right? So the taxing authority in your state, your county, needs to have adopted CPACE. If they haven't, it's not a long process for them to do it. In fact, I think it's about a 3-month process if your county has never used CPACE financing before, because essentially, again, this is tied to your tax bill. And so for those states and counties that have already exercised CPACE financing, it is an elegant financing method. And the reason I say that is it's 100% financing for Jonathan's project, right? White membrane re-roofing, LED lighting, solar, and some other ancillary efficiency measures. It also provided capital during the construction of the project. And that's not always a given. A lot of times you can go out as a small business and secure long-term debt for a project once it's installed, right? So this was also upfront during the construction period. And so if you look up CPACE, you'll find a map. If anyone wants to, message me, I can send you the link to the map, and it'll show you if your state and then your county has already adopted CPACE. If they haven't, there's a CPACE organization very similar to CEBI who will guide you through the process and handhold the county through the process. So they will handle the heavy lifting for you. And we're really, really encouraged and bullish by that offering.
Thank you. Some really wonderful insights.
One other thing we forgot to mention, and it was something Chris touched on, because the payment is tied to your real estate taxes. So the way it works is once a year, we cut a check for principal and interest. There's a low interest rate that's in there. Once a year, we cut a check, and it's like your real estate tax bill is annually. That makes it much easier to recover via CAM, right? A bill comes in, and you say, okay, you're my tenant, you're in a quarter of the building, a quarter of this is yours. But the other thing that's really important, because you're going to have to get your bank on board, CPACE financing, because it's tied to the real estate taxes, sits in front of your conventional bank financing. But the reason your bank will sign off on it is if you default, it's only acceleratable a year at a time. So say you borrow $1.5 million and you have $30,000 a year, let's say you have $50,000 a year due for 30 years, right? Only that year's payment is acceleratable ahead of your bank, because you will have to get your bank to sign off. And that's a really critical point for your lender if they've never been through CPACE financing before. Chris, our bank got that right away, didn't they, when we brought it to them?
They did, yeah. And this was, I think, the first time that a project had been brought to them using CPACE. So, look, it's not maybe an everyday topic or name or acronym that you talk about as far as options for financing, but it is and has been a powerful financing tool across the country. I'm not a CPACE lender, so I'm just telling you from a developer's perspective and seeing the power of that particular packaging of a financing for a customer, it's definitely worth looking into. And so again, check out CPACE. There's a website for it. It'll let you know if that's available for you. And then let the professionals do their job. The CPACE lender we chose, that Jonathan chose, that we teed up, it turned out to be wonderful. We can email you who they are if you want a reference. And I believe that they're in all the states that offer CPACE financing.
I have one question come in directly. Jonathan, you talked about CAM. Can you explain what that is for anybody on the call that's not familiar? Oh, you're muted.
Sure, sorry. So I live in this kind of small and medium enterprise world, and my sense that I'm getting is a lot of you are from bigger institutions. CAM is a real estate term that stands for common area maintenance, right? So the idea is, if I'm a landlord and I have a 100,000 square foot building and you're a tenant in my building taking up 20,000 square feet, I'm going to try to get you to sign something called a triple net lease, which is a lease where you're responsible for all of the costs on an allocated percentage basis of supporting the building. So snow plowing, grass mowing, common area lighting, lighting up the hallways, signage, and electricity. I'm going to allocate to you under my lease. If you take up 20% of the building, you're going to eat 20% of those bills. So by turning the cost of that solar into a total building cost, I can then allocate on a percentage basis some of that payment for recovering the cost of putting the solar system up there, inclusive of the roof, to the tenant as part of the common area maintenance for the building. So it does a really excellent job of improving the economic return on your real estate project.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
None of you guys care about tax credits? Holy hell, what are you people doing out there? Cash money, babies.
We have lots of conversations about tax credits, don't worry. Anybody else want to weigh in with a question?
Maybe I'll kind of ask a question about the tax credit. So that's a big opportunity, but like some organizations don't have that tax credit appetite, right? Is there a way to work to line up with like a party that has tax credit appetite?
Yeah, you can
like a tri-party transaction here.
You can sell them. So and if you sell them, it's an opportunity to reduce the cost of your project. Frankly, you end up putting money in your pocket in year one. You put big dollars back in your pocket. Chris, you want to walk them through it a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right. So with the passage of the IRA last year, this 2023 is the first year that you can actually sell the tax credit from a eligible solar project and disconnect the tax credit and who claims it from who actually owns the solar system. So if you are a for-profit enterprise, you're allowed to sell your tax credit. These transactions have begun to take place. There are buyers out there. The buyers are those that have lots of taxable income that they have to write, large checks for. And this is not a quote, but the market is going for somewhere around 95% of the value of the tax credit. When it initially came out, we participate with the leading tax counsel and bankers in this area. The idea was that there would probably be about 90 to 92% on the dollar, but there's been such demand for the tax credits that it's actually been holding in around the 95% range. So if you had a $1 million tax credit, you could sell it for $950,000. If you are nonprofit, a non-tax-paying entity, you can get a direct pay from the government. That too is new in 2023 and going forward with the IRA. So not-for-profits can actually submit and get a direct pay from the federal government. For-profits can go ahead and sell that tax credit if you can't monetize it. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yes, and can it only be sold once? Let's say like the party that bought it, can they resell it, or is it just kind of like a one-time?
Yeah, my understanding is that you can sell it one time, and the buyer is literally going to connect a tax ID number for your eligible tax credit that you sold it, they bought it, and then they're claiming it on their tax return. One other comment to make around the tax benefits is depreciation. So Jonathan's going to value strongly from depreciation, which can be accelerated. You cannot sell the depreciation when you sell a tax credit. So you will continue to own the depreciation and monetize that in whatever schedule makes sense for you. Whereas you can, as Jonathan said, sell the tax credit for cash dollars.
Very good, thank you.
And it is non-taxable. So when you sell the tax credit, it's not a tax event.
And one other point, just for folks to be aware of, there's also marketplaces that are emerging around these tax credits. Ever.green is one of them, to try to do that matching that was just described between sellers and buyers and standardize the process, because what has been very, very complex in the past, there's more opportunity, but there's also still a lot to be done to standardize contracting and language and do the diligence on the projects to make this easier. So just, passing that along for you to realize that there's folks out there who are trying to expressly serve, more of the market that has not been participating in the past.
Great to hear. Excellent.
Certainly an evolving space.
Yeah.
Excellent.